Hello everybody, my name is Bling and today we are playing more Warframe. Today we will be taking a look at Ember with the Secura Penta and Napalm grenades. I made mention of these two earlier in my previous Ember video, however I did not have this weapon, nor did I have the augment, so I was unable to test it out. But now I do, so now we can see just how well these two synergize together. They actually synergize pretty well together. So looking at Ember's build, this is a very simple, very basic build for testing purposes. We are just running a high power strength build so we can get a high multiplier from accelerant. We are also running flash accelerant to increase our raw heat damage, which will in turn obviously benefit more from the multiplier on accelerant. Realistically, you'll probably run a vitality or a stretch in your last slot, but like I said, this is for testing purposes, so we're just running high power strength. Now as for the Penta, we are running raw heat obviously to benefit from accelerant. Without napalm grenades, this weapon does impact and blast damage, but with napalm grenades it turns it into complete heat. So this is great for Ember for obvious reasons. We are running crit right here to maximize our damage, however maybe you want some utility from terminal velocity or something like that in order to hit enemies further away. That is completely up to the player, but for testing purposes we are maximizing our DPS with the crit mods. We will also be making use of Ember's passive right here. Now usually this passive is very niche, very specific, and overall very useless, but we can really abuse this passive with napalm grenade and how it works. So we will be using this to our advantage. It gives a 10 energy per second regen and a 35% ability strength buff while she is under a heat proc, which is easy to do with napalm grenades. So we will be definitely abusing this to our advantage. So I will show how we will put ourselves under that heat proc right now. When you aim at the ground and shoot a grenade, it will put a heat patch on the ground and you stand on it, and now you are under heat proc. You will now have that passive ignited. As you can see, the regeneration is very high, especially when combined with Xenric. You will pretty much never run out of energy when you are running these two together. And we will be making use of the power strength buff once we test the weapon out, which we will do right now. Unfortunately, I'm only MR15. I have 1200 in mission hours on this game and 2500 general hours. I should definitely be a higher mastery rank than I am, but I just do not really care about grinding mastery, so I don't do it, and that's why my mastery rank is so low. So I can only get these enemies to level 105, but this is still 23 level enemies, so it's not like this test is completely pointless or worthless. Most of the time you will only be going like against level 100 enemies in 33, and that's probably the most consistent high level content that most people do on a daily basis, other than maybe ESO. So by no means is this test like pointless or worthless. So without further ado, we will simulate the heavy gunners and we will see just how well this setup works. So what we'll do first is we'll shoot a grenade at the ground and get our passive going. Then we will press 2, prime them with accelerant, and time to see what we can do. Boom. Boom. It's pretty good, as you can see. Pretty decent. And yeah, it's not that bad. Did it pretty well. Now what I'm going to do real quick, I'm going to show it with these enemies not primed by accelerant, so I can show the difference between the two. So without accelerant, which is how this works, get 7k at like most, at the max. And yeah. Or was that 700? I couldn't really tell. But yeah, that damage buff is definitely pretty big for Ember. In fact, I'm going to compare this to Chroma, and don't get me wrong, Chroma is objectively the better frame and his buff is objectively better without any real setup either. But I just want to compare the two to have just a baseline for how that buff with Ember works. So for Chroma here, we're running the same amount of power strength and the same aura. Just for testing purposes anyway. So let us go see. Oh, let me change the build. Okay, I forgot to do that. Alright, so changing the build, we are running this. We are not running Serration because of how Vex armor works. For those who don't know, Vex armor is essentially a buffed up Serration, so you do not need 2 Serations. Obviously, you will want to pick the bigger Serration, which is Vex armor. So otherwise, you'll just want to run raw elemental damage, maybe some crit, and multi-shot. So what we're going to do is we're going to kill these enemies and then re-simulate them. I forgot to get my energy. So we're going to compare this to what Ember was able to do with Accelerant. Now, like I said earlier, the Chroma's buff is essentially like objectively better. But you might be surprised by how like small the differences are. They're not that ridiculously different. You see Chroma is getting about 10k more damage, 48 compared to Ember's like 38, I believe. So it's definitely a pretty decent jump, but it's not so high enough to where you can say, oh well, fuck Ember, you know, like that buff is trash, you know what I'm saying? But like I did say earlier, Chroma is the objectively better frame with the objectively better buff and survivability and all that good stuff. So I'm by no means saying that Ember is able to outperform or even really come close to performing near Chroma's level, but I'm just saying it's a pretty decent buff comparatively. Now I'm going to test this against some Grineer heavy gunners real quick, or rather some regular heavy gunners, and show that off as well. I'm not going to do it with Chroma for the sake of time. I'm just going to do it with Ember right quick. Go back to our heat build, go back to our Accelerant build, and now we're going to spawn some Grineer heavy gunners. Because these enemies have less health than the corrupted heavy gunners, like less raw health than the corrupted heavy gunners. So we'll shoot our patch, give ourselves our passive buff, use R2 to put them under the heat pot, not under the heat pot, but under the buff from the Accelerant. As you can see, it's a one shot. Now obviously Chroma can do this himself, but yeah, that just goes to show you like this can definitely perform well at higher level content, like even outside of the corrupted heavy gunners, corrupted bomb bars, so on and so forth. Even with Grineer, it can do pretty well. So I'm not saying by any means that this saves Ember. Ember is still a very weak frame right now. She definitely needs a rework, and I'm glad she is getting one, or so I've heard that she is. I'm just saying that this is a pretty fun setup, and most importantly, it's actually a bit effective, and it's like that you can actually use this in higher level content, which is actually pretty difficult to do with Ember because of how weak she is normally. But yeah, that's all there is to it pretty much. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you tried this build for yourself and maybe have some fun with it, because I know I definitely had some fun with it running it in some sortie level content a few days ago. And some higher level defenses, some longer defenses, some longer survivals. Definitely had some fun with it, and I hope you guys can do the same. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day.